Welcome, everyone, to the Elephants on Business podcast, improving our small business journey together, one episode at a time. I suppose this is part two of our marketing chat.
Yeah, exactly. We're back again. So part two of what we were discussing before in obviously the previous part. Let's do a quick summary of what we sort of discussed in the first part. So, if you go back to the first episode of, the marketing episode, we've got, one was, conduct your basic marketing analysis of, for businesses, for your business. So, go out there, look at, what's your ideal client, things like that. So that was discussed there, and, lean into the strengths of your business and what you're selling. And then the second part of that episode was about, how clients can build their own website, or, simple low-cost tips to building a website versus, potentially just seeking someone else to sort of help you out there as well. And the main point there was, there's templates available, and you can pretty much get something online if you're starting from zero at sort of that low cost value. So that was pretty much what we discussed there. And then I think we also sort of briefly discussed that SEO idea there as well, which I think we'll just do another episode on that and get you back in, Ned, to discuss SEO in detail. But we'll continue on with this marketing for basic small businesses, where it's basically starting from zero, and sort of we'll go into your third pillar here, which was Google, right?
Yeah. So the kind of third of the five pillars that I think builds the kind of marketing foundation. Yeah, and it's Google, which is once again another kind of digital tool, and it's just really so powerful.
Yep.
Google Online compared to kind of every other search engine. I think a recent figure was that 92.5% of all search engine traffic through Google. So they have a complete monopoly. So it's, if you're going to focus on any kind of other online search engine, then it has to be Google. So it's so important to get set up here and to get it done right.
And what we mean by Google is that Google My Business, right? So the setup behind that.
Yeah, so that's probably the primary thing, is getting your Google My Business set up.
And just talk to us about, what sort of information goes into, I guess, that Google My Business,
Yeah, well, the most important one really is location, especially for small business. Your location is so important. Even if you're not a big site, you may not have a lot of traffic. Just having your location, on the map when people search up, accountant Mount Waverley, if they see this guy's just around the corner.
Or like a bakery near me, or something like that, right? So like typically when you're on your mobile device or something like that, you would jump on Google and you would just go, bakery near me, or, pizza near me, or something like that, looking for a business. And then ideally, the first couple of search results on Google is the map, right? Mm-hmm. So basically what you're saying here is we want to be on Google, we want to have that map presence, right? And obviously have your location set up, do all those things. And then how do you get that right though? Like what goes into making a good My Google Business page? Like, do we need reviews? Do we need, what goes into that?
Yeah, so essentially you want to get as much information in there as you can. You want to include as many services that you provide. So, not just like you do accounting, but you want to include bookkeeping, business structure. You want to include all that kind of stuff, because all that will come up in Google when people search for you.
Yes.
Things like business hours, all that kind of stuff's all very important. So as much information as you can have, and make sure that it's up to date, and then it's all accurate. As over time, your information will change, maybe your hours change, your location. It's important to stay up to date with this stuff, because Google's very funny with their whole algorithms and where they rank you. And as soon as they start to detect that there's some information doesn't match up, you can go plummeting down the rankings, and it can really kind of hurt.
So Google's just trolling through the internet and finding where you've put information. So you might have some opening hours on Facebook or Instagram or something like that. Yep. And if it's not tied in, then there's some sort of penalty there, right?
Yeah, that's right. And like we'll have this discussion more, when we chat about SEO, but even on the maps, when you search us up, the ranking is incredibly important, because you'll likely only see the first 3 or 4 businesses that show up. So you want to be as high up there as you can. in order to get as many eyeballs on your business. So by having that information correct, and also, like you mentioned, Google reviews are a very important component of that.
That sort of drives obviously the map presence as well, right? So like obviously if you can get some clients to go in there, leave your review on that Google My Business, whenever there's a customer searching on the phone, like I generally do that as well. If you're looking for a new service that's close to you and you're mindful of location, you search on your phone quickly and you generally look at the first 5 and you would look at their reviews as well. Which ones have, good reviews, 4 or 5 star. I mean, I do that a lot with when you go to new restaurants, right? So you try and find ones that are maybe 4.5 star rating or anything above 4, and you generally know maybe there's some quality there, and I'll go and, seek out that service.
Yeah, absolutely. And just leaving the algorithm side, out of it, Google reviews are like a validation for your business, really.
Yeah.
When someone's just heard your name, or maybe they see you somewhere, I know it's my first port of call where I want to get validation. Are these guys good? Do the public believe that they're, they provide value? Yeah, you're right. Like with restaurants, that's obviously incredibly important, retail, that kind of stuff. But even in the financial kind of industries like we're in, people want to make sure that the general public values what they do, and that they're not gonna screw them over, or same with like mechanics, any kind of industry. Google reviews are so important, and that's why it's really important to have a process in there for
how do you get reviews
how do you
clients?
get them, how do you encourage
so like, do you ask them after you've delivered a service, 1 week after, 2 weeks after? What's your process behind that? And just quickly on that Google, is there a cost associated with doing such a listing? And just talk to us about that.
So Google, I mean, there's obviously costs that you can get with Google. There's also free. There's obviously you don't have to pay for anything. I don't think we do, and you obviously still get a presence and everything like that.
You can just do the listing technically for free there, right? So you just put up your listing, select your location, do your hours, chuck up some pictures, put some content in there, and start pushing that review side of things as a starting point.
Yeah, and that's why we'd recommend, before spending any kind of money on your marketing, just to get all the basics set up for no cost, and then you can go from there. I think that kind of leads us into the fourth pillar of the 5 that we've been talking about, and that's social media. And social media is a really interesting one because its influence differs wildly from industry to industry. For some, it's critical, and it's probably going to be your most important source of lead generations. For others, it's not going to be important at all.
Yeah. So, like for example, like if you're on Instagram, and you run a business that's like very visual in nature, or a restaurant that can take some nice pictures of the food and things like that, then that's probably one that you lean on, right? So like, whereas us in accounting, I'm not going to take a picture of a tax return and put it on Instagram. There's not much to really do for us there. But the one that we lean here as on in terms of that professional service field is more your LinkedIn, your YouTube potentially now, and obviously like the podcast and things like that.
That's right, and that comes back to target audience. Like what is your target audience, and what's the best way to get them? Facebook, there's obviously a lot of talk about declining popularity there, but it's still by far the biggest social media platform out there. There's 3 million users, and there's a wide range of demographics. You've got old people, young people, all kinds of people on there. So that's usually a good starting point. YouTube's also obviously massive as well. That's a different kind of content out there, but that's another great one to think about. Instagram, obviously, maybe a slightly younger demographic. Maybe slightly more female than Facebook or YouTube. That's great for clothing products, beauty, that kind of thing. And then there's a whole bunch of other social media out there as well for you to start thinking about where do I want to have a presence, what kind of people do I want to target.
And generally this type of social media is generally free of charge. You can always go and start up a Facebook, YouTube, Instagram page, but it's whether or not you want to spend on the ad spend, and probably then you would go and seek someone that sort of specializes in that and can assist there. But like we said before, it's more of a starting point. So once again, it's more just establishing your page or your business presence on these social media platforms, right? And then making sure that the content that you put on there is the same as what you have on my Google Business and what you have on your website. So addresses, opening hours, and things like that.
Yeah, and I think it can be quite daunting just thinking about social media. We've already talked to a few some small business owners that when they think of, oh God, I've got to post to my social media a few times a week, what kind of content do I have to do? It's daunting, but I don't think it has to be overly complicated. You don't have to overthink it too much. Sometimes it's just going to be posting a photo of, your work day, saying what you guys are up to, just posting updates. Generally with...
so just try and keep it simple, you're saying?
Yeah, and just try and stay in people's minds. You might show up in people's news feeds.
Yeah.
Because, small businesses they're perceived a lot more differently to bigger businesses. Yep. People are a bit more wary of bigger business, but small business owners, generally the public wants to see you do really well. They're happy to hear about your success. If you're
going for sort of like that underdog, right? So like just try and
So there's nothing wrong with posting about achievements, that kind of stuff. Like if you want an award, like one of our staff members did the other day. People really want to hear about that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it doesn't have to be, a big kind of marketing speech or it doesn't. Every post doesn't have to win 10 people over to go and buy your product straight away. It's just about kind of being there, being active, having a bit of a presence, just staying in people's minds.
Yeah. So just becoming like just that top of mind again, like for anyone that's on these platforms, I guess.
Yeah, and like a lot of the kind of marketing stuff we're talking about, it doesn't necessarily have to win people over directly. It's all just kind of adding layers onto your overall kind of brand. So maybe someone finds you online and just to check you out, to get a bit of validation. They'll just see what's their Facebook look like. Oh, they've posted a couple of times in the last week, so they're active, they're engaged. All that kind of stuff adds up. And so it's just good to...
So if they've landed on your website, they'll also go, okay, what's happening on Instagram or Facebook, or, do they have a YouTube podcast? And they're probably just going around and just, validating, I guess, whether or not they want to engage in your service before they even click on contact us. And
it's hard to see if maybe these things are working straight away or if they're having a direct effect. But often, it's kind of
that long-term
combination
outlook, right?
of all these things that can have really positive effects.
And then that last pillar, right? So moving on to the last one.
Yeah. So the last point was direct marketing,
right? So talk to us about that. So what are some of the things that people do in this space?
Yeah. So this is just kind of a broader term I'm using just to talk about when you're marketing directly to clients.
Yep.
So social media, that kind of stuff. That's all more broad stuff, but. I'm talking about putting maybe it's just putting some flyers in letterboxes in the neighbourhood. That's always been a classic cheap way of trying to get your name out there.
Or going to the local footy club, doing like a sponsorship, getting around it and stuff as well.
That's it.
Or local newspapers, or just going to a local business and trying to just put up some advertisements there, stuff like that, right?
Yeah, that's right. Another great one we do here. I know a lot of businesses do it. It's having a newsletter. That's like a really easy one. You just got to build up a few.
Just have like a client list there.
That's right. Yeah.
Have obviously the subscribers over time and send out updates across to them as well.
Yeah.
And then on that, obviously that one there is maybe a little bit more involved, as it's not as digital in nature as the other couple that we had there. But this one's probably a little bit more, you've got to go get the printing, the flyers and things, and find a way to deliver the message as well.
That's right. Like the direct marketing does take a bit more effort, and it can be a little bit more confrontational. You will probably need to polish up some of your own sales skills as well.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that if you can kind of make it part of your work and schedule in your schedule, whether it's once a month, you think about these things once a month. Even if it's just calling up an old client, seeing how they're doing, using your own personal social media accounts. Like taking a time once a month just to write a newsletter to your existing client base. These kind of strategies that they are actually very effective because you're
engaging.
And they're far more direct.
Real, almost real people rather than just trying to post on Instagram and see where it sort of travels in a sense, right?
Yeah, and so if you can get these kind of processes in early, that will make a huge difference down the line.
Yeah.
So look, those were the five.
You want to just probably wrap them up again real quickly, just off the top. So you go for number 1. So we had
sure. So we had conduct the basic marketing analysis. Yep.
And then number 2 was just just get something up, build a website. Have a crack at that. And then number 3 was obviously the Google stuff. So have a My Google Business page and make sure you sort of update that. And number 4 was
just getting started on social media.
Just have something there as well, because once again, these tips are more for a small business just starting off. Like, these are things to just tick off. And then the last one there was obviously the one that we just spoke about, which was that direct marketing stuff, right? So just doing your flyers, your letterbox drop-offs, and maybe going around to the local footy or soccer or whatever it may be, just to do a bit of promotion there as well. And that pretty much wraps it up. But we'll probably do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the other elements in later episodes, like SEO in particular, and things like that, just to really tick off, and we'll come up with more sort of information in the future. Yeah,
the last thing I'll say is just it's very important to note, to just try and do a really good job with the clients and customers that you already have, because the best marketing strategy really is just to run a really good business, because once you start getting things like word of mouth, referrals, it's a really powerful way to grow your business. And the best part about it,
back to your business reputation.
Exactly.
So it all feeds into one another, I guess.
And it's great because once you have people talking about you, they're doing the marketing for you. So and it's so much easier to get people to come back to your business or to refer others than it is to try and convince someone that knows nothing about you to come on board. So
exactly.
I suppose those are the kind of 5 things I think it's
as a starting point.
As a starting point for your small business to kind of get set up, and then you can kind of build from there later on. And once a lot of these things, the processes have been put in place, it takes a lot of work off your plate, later on when your clients pick up and it's a lot busier. A lot of these things will kind of be looking after themselves. So
and then after a certain point, you'll reach out to maybe someone that specializes in this area and probably get them to review and touch it up and just really build it out from there, I guess. So great stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks a lot.
No worries. Thanks for having us on again, Oz. And I'm sure Shahan will be back next time. But thanks very much.
Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.
See ya.